Hello, Syngap land. My name is Michael Graglia, and this is episode 122 of Syngap 10, your 10-minute weekly briefing on everything you need to know about Syngap1. There's one thing I want you to remember today, and by the way, today is November 1st. Hope you had a good Halloween. So one thing I want you to remember today is that you need to email khubba, K-H-U-B-A, at JCU, John Carroll University, jcu.edu, and say, I want to take part in the NET study. And I'm going to tell you a story about why that's so important. Some of you might be like, wait, I feel like I did this 2 years ago. And you did. And to the 40 of you who did that 2 years ago, thank you very much. Please do it again, right? This is a different study. We are building on that work. Katie will probably be reaching out to you. Khubba is Katie Hubba. But if she doesn't, or if you can beat her to the punch, go ahead and everybody who's listening to this, email khubba at jhu.edu and say, I want to take part in the Syngap1 NET study. What does it mean to take part in the Syngap1 NET study? It means you got to answer some questionnaires, and it means you got to put your kid in front of a computer to do a few things now, and then when the study starts, and then in 3 months later, 6 months later, 9 months later, 12 months later. So it's 5 times you're going to have to open up your laptop and say, hey, Tony, or whatever your kid's name is, come over here. Look at this video. Isn't that cool? Submit. That's it. Submit. That's it. And that's the beauty of this, right? So let me go way back. 2 years ago, Dr. Fraser called me and said, I want to develop a at-home test that is easy for families to study. And I also want to develop something that's better than the Vineland, because we all hate the Vineland. If you haven't taken the Vineland yet, if you're newly diagnosed, it's a special level of hell. You have to answer like 100 different questions. It's really heartbreaking because can you kid do this? No. Can you kid do this? No. Can you kid do this? No. Can you kid do this? Are you kidding me? Like, it's ridiculous. And it breaks all our hearts every time. So, and Dr. Fraser, by the way, I should say, has a son. He's very public about this. Has a son who has autism caused by a different genetic disease. And Dr. Fraser is also, by the way, the former CSO of Autism Speaks, very serious organization. So this dude's very highly credible. So he calls me 2 years ago. He said, hey, I've got a thing. I want you guys to support it, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, I get these calls a lot. And then he's like, yeah, I want to improve the Vineland, and I want to make a test that is easy to assess our kids who are low and no verbal, because the kids don't have to answer any questions, right? Basically what happens is you open up the laptop, you throw some videos on the screen, and the laptop tracks with the camera the eyes of the kid. So if you stick a person's face over here and a truck over here, most normal people go to that face because humans made it this far through the centuries by assessing other people's faces and deciding accordingly, right? But autistic kids, sometimes they don't necessarily gravitate to the face. And there's all these other things that you can do with just letting that camera watch the face of the subject and assess their mood, assess where their eyes are going, assess how long they look at what. There's all these cool things. And Dr. Fraser has said, we can use this to make an assessment where kids who can't even speak can be assessed. And the reason that matters, guys, is all these small molecules and all these genetic therapies we're making right now, they're going to have to go through clinical trials. And everybody's scratching their head right now about what we can study in a clinical trial. And Dr. Fraser has thought about this and is building a tool. And he called me 2 years ago and he said, look, I know you guys are a patient advocacy group. I know you don't have a lot of money. He said, I'm only asking for X because this other foundation, the PTEN Foundation, God bless the PTEN Research Foundation. I love these people. They met Dr. Fraser. They knew he was good, and they have some good donors. Their fundraising game is tight. And so they underwrote this project, basically. And then Dr. Fraser called me and said, look, there's a little bit of incremental cost to add other rare diseases. Would you play? And I said yes, and ADMP said yes, and Malan said yes. And so as a result of having donors like you, thank you to everybody who's ever donated, believe in SRF and trust us with your funds, we were able to say yes to Dr. Fraser 2 years ago. And what happened? Well, Dr. Fraser then said, great, I need Syngap patients. Can you get me 10 or 20 patients? And I said, we can get you way more than 10 or 20 patients because our patients are on fire. And thank you, Corey. Thank you, Callie. We got over 40 patients took part in this. Don't trust me. Go read the papers. He's had 2 publications already from this. 2 publications in the American Journal of Medical Genetics. Serious. Links are in the show notes. Go read the papers. Look at the tables. Look at Syngap1. N equals 46, N equals 43, I think, if memory serves. But the point is, over 40 of us showed up. We're actually the largest monogenic cohort in these papers. And he called me back. He said, wow, you guys are pretty good at this. I said, we're really good at this. Our parents are desperate for help. And he said, well, maybe I'll keep working on the net and I'll make an assessment for Syngap1. I said, can you do that? He said, yeah. I said, well, how's it going to work? How are we going to get it to how are companies going to use it? How are clinicians going to use it? He said, oh, no, I'm working with this company, Quadrant Biosciences. I've worked with them in the past. And we're going to create a company called Autism Analytica. And then we're going to use this, and Autism Analytica is going to have the net, and they're going to make this tool available to industry partners, pharmaceutical companies running trials, and clinicians, doctors in clinics trying to figure things out. And he's like, this is going to make patients' lives easier because the laptop that they have at home, they can just download the net or open the net on a web browser, throw the videos in front of the kid, let the web browser capture the eye tracking and the facial descriptions, right? And that data is what will generate the score. Plus, I'm working on questionnaires that will take the Vineland, which is like 200 questions that just break your heart, and condense it into a much smaller, faster questionnaire. I just wanted to hug him, but we were on Zoom. I couldn't hug him. But yeah, be careful, Dr. Frazier. Dr. Frazier's coming to the conference. I might hug you. So I love this man. So he calls us 2 years ago. We give him a small grant. He does all this work. We recruit 40 patients. And guess what? My cuckoo clock's going off. Guess what? 2 publications. And then he calls us back and he says, hey, for about $100,000, can you give my lab and Autism Analytica some funds to build out a SYNGAP1 tool? I said, all day long, man. Let's do this. And guess what? We're doing it. And this, I'm telling you right now, I've been sitting on this for a while. We've been writing grant agreements and things have been happening, IRBs. But right now, there is a recruitment flyer, links in the show notes, where you can sign up and email KHUBA at John Carroll University.edu and say, I would like to take part in the SYNGAP1 net study. And what you're signing up for is to answer some questionnaires, because we all have to answer questionnaires, and to put your child in front of a screen at time 0, time 3 months, time 6 months, time 9 months, and times 12 months. That's it. And then with that data, Dr. Frazier is going to be able to build a net tool for SYNGAP1. He said, Mike, I need at least 80 patients. I want us to deliver at least 100 patients, right? That's how this game is played, guys. There's almost 400 patients that we know of diagnosed in the US. I need at least 1 in 4 of you guys to take part in this and to put your data in there and to let Dr. Frazier build a tool to help my son and your kids get through clinical trials faster. This is not a big ask. By the way, I think you get a gift card or something at the end of it. I don't know, so many gift cards. But that is the point, you guys. This is super important and you should be excited to take part because we all want better drugs for our kids. Those drugs go through clinical trials and these endpoints and metrics, and everybody's scratching their head on what to use right now. And Dr. Frazier is building one that is not only going to be more precise and effective than others, but it can also be done at home and will be designed based on SYNGAP1 data. Amazing. Thank you, Dr. Frazier. Now, if you're coming to our conference, you can thank Dr. Frazier yourself because he'll be speaking. And I urge you all to come to our conference. It's not too late. Oh, by the way, on the conference, I remember something. The conference you register for, but the dinner on Friday night, which is epic, is a separate registration. And we're charging you guys like less than half of what it costs. But please go to the conference page. It's on our website. Links in the show notes. And book tickets for the dinner. You should also have gotten an email from Lauren if you register for the conference. This is a must, you guys. You got to go to the dinner. It's going to be amazing. So, number 1, sign up for the study. Links in the show notes, flyers in the show notes, the old press releases in the show notes, the publications in the American Journal of Medical Genetics from the show notes. Check it out. Number 2, register for the dinner at the conference. Make sure you're coming to the conference. Be sure to say thank you to Dr. Frazier for his incredible partnership. Number 3, none of this is possible without donations. Every single family, if you have been diagnosed for 10 years, if you have been diagnosed for 2 weeks, every single family needs to email their community and say, my child has a lifelong debilitating disease called SYNGAP1. There is an organization out there that has a 5-year proven track record of delivering millions of dollars for research. And the founders cover all the overheads. And we desperately need to raise more money to move science faster to help my little boy, girl, or my big boy, girl, move through science faster. The only thing stopping us from funding more science is how much money we have in the bank. And there are families out there, the Stelmazics, the Joneses, the Tavillas, Julie Miles down in the Carolinas. I can never figure out which Carolina you're in, Julie. This whole north-south thing confuses me. The paddle slap in Mississippi. There are people out there running events and raising 5-6 figure amounts. But if you can only raise $1,000, if you can only raise $2,500, if you just take to Facebook, right? Links in the show notes, syngap.fund/give or syngap.fund/GT23 is our Giving Tuesday campaign right now. Encourage people, especially if you just got diagnosed. People like, oh, finally you know what's going on. How can I help? You can help by making a generous donation to this tax exempt, registered organization with audited financials, the Syngap Research Fund. Because these guys put their money where their mouth is and they fund science. Because our board is entirely families and we all want the same thing, better medicines tomorrow for our kids. That's why you need to sign up for the NET SYNGAP1 study by emailing khubba@jacu.edu. That's why you need to go raise money, and that's why you need to come to the conference to understand the incredible breadth and depth of what we're doing here and how you can help. We're all in this together, guys. We're on the same team, the same family. The only people who understand families and kids with Syngap are other families and kids with Syngap. I'm really coming around to that mindset. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this mighty community. Thank you for emailing Katie. Thank you for raising funds for SRF. We are going to do this.